Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Steve Martin.
Thank you. Thank you, Martin. Thank you. Thank you. Whoa. Thank you so much. It's not necessary. Thank you. Thank you. Please be seated. Marty couldn't make it. Have a safe ride home. Now, right off the top, I want to apologize for ticket prices because I know from your point of view, you're just thinking, it's only 2 guys. Why is it so expensive? But do you know it takes 18 people to put this show on? We have 2 sound engineers. We have a lighting director. We have 7 musicians on stage. We have someone to walk my Fitbit around. We have an intermediary because Marty and I no longer speak to each other. We have a celebrity look-alike in case I don't feel like going on. Steve says hi, by the way. But ladies and gentlemen, right now I am so excited to introduce a man I love to work with, a man I met over 30 years ago. A man who is so talented in so many different ways. He sings, he dances, he's an incredible musician, and I consider him to be the real star of the show tonight, Mr. ▴😓😓 on piano, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Steve. You know, well, I thought I was
Thank you, Jeff. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to introduce a man who's as funny as a barrel of monkeys, but that's it. Mr. Martin Short. This is the best. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Just because I say thank you doesn't mean you have to stop applauding. I can't tell you how humble your response makes a huge star like me feel. Please be seated. How are we on time? We just started. Oh, I see. All we ask is you love us and like us as well. We're desperate for attention and we're needy as hell. All we ask is you want us. We'll give you our thanks, cause our egos are gigantic and we're both wearing Spanx. So don't be apprehensive, cause limos are expensive. Just love me, even more than I love. Down this Greenville altitude. Melissa, it's Jeff. Jeff. Let's try that top note one more time, shall we? Even more than I love. Thank you so much for stop loving just me. Remember, Steve's here too. You know, Marty, it's been a long-time dream of mine to perform a 2-man show right here at the Peace Center with you in Greenville. That's, I shouldn't have had that Motrin. Anyway, in Greenville, South Carolina. And tonight, tonight I feel I am one step closer to that dream. You know what? Steve, let's just leave that as is. Steve, you'd tell me if you'd had a stroke, wouldn't you? But you're right, it is a thrill. It's actually more than a thrill, it's an obligation. See, I call this show If We'd Saved, We Wouldn't Be Here. Good night, everybody! Hey, what happened? No! I looked online at the Peace Center website, and there were our photos, and across them were written the words, sold out. And I thought, how rude.
Oh, by the way, when Marty and I fly together, we save a lot of money because Marty fits conveniently in the overhead bin.
True. Absolutely true. You know, see, let me just say, I am such a fan. I mean, I see your work and I'm whelmed. I mean, I bet I've seen Cheaper by the Dozen over 500 times.
Wow. Thank you.
And every time I see it, I always say the same thing. I say, Steve, you know, we could watch something else.
You know what I love about touring around with Marty Short? No paparazzi.
And when I think of Steve, and it's not often, but when I do, the one thing that strikes me more than anything else about you is how unbelievably pale you are in person. It's like I'm being haunted, you know. No, really. Yeah, I mean, you look like a page in a coloring book that hasn't been colored yet. Steve once got a sunburn from his Kindle reader. You know. You look like Anderson Cooper froze to death on New Year's Eve. Thank you. Thank you. You look like someone put a white toupee on a urinal. And listen to me. I'm not trying to be negative.
No, I can tell.
Why? But out of curiosity, how far into the embalming process did they get before you woke up screaming? It must have been frightening for you.
You know, Marty, we should explain something. It sounds like we are insulting each other, but we're actually not. This is the way we pay compliments in Hollywood.
That's correct. And, you know, it's true. In Hollywood, compliments are a lot like regular compliments.
But they have a slight passive-aggressive dig at the end.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Steve, you know, it's truly an honor for me to be performing with the world's biggest star from 1978.
Oh, Marty, that is so sweet. And I often hear people refer to you as a whole entertainer. Oh. Well, I added the word entertainer.
And may I say that you look fantastic. And I guess that's the charm of looking 70 since you were 30.
Hey, Marty, you know, I think of you as a Renaissance man, and not just because you carry smallpox. You know, I don't often use the word genius.
And?
Nothing.
You know, the other day, Steve butt-dialed me, which was so impressive considering he still uses a rotary phone.
When did you add that?
Tonight.
Okay. And by the way, I loved you on Fallon the other night. Just, oh my God, your comedy was so effortless.
Oh, thank you.
And I kept thinking, I wonder how it'd be if you put a little effort into it.
Did you see me on Ellen?
No, I missed that.
Of course, what am I thinking? That's on at 3 p.m. and that's when you're having dinner.
By the way, Martin Short is also the name I use when I check into a hotel and want to be anonymous.
35 years later, and you're still the jerk. And that's how we do it in Hollywood. Now, Steve and I feel that you, the audience, might like to get to know us a little bit better.
Yes, and the reason we think that is because we're egomaniacs.
Right. So we'd like to share with you some of the hidden gems from our family photo collections.
Yes, these are rarely, if ever seen, private photos.
Absolutely correct.
Let's take a look at the first one. This is Marty when he was just 2 years old. Adorable.
That's cute, isn't it? My dark period. Look at that.
Yeah. And here's a shot of me on Christmas morning when I was 6 years old.
Let me ask you something, Steve. When the guy sold you that Christmas tree, how hard was he laughing?
This was taken when I was just a young boy in Texas, and it's a photo of my first marriage.
Next.
Go to the next one.
Oh. Here's a photo of me when I was 13 years of age on the beach with my parents.
And that's really you, because at first I thought it was Winnie the Pooh.
No. You know what's amazing about this photo? How well my parents are hiding their disappointment. Oh, and then now that's me at 15, and my first trip to New York City. That's my mom, 2 brothers. We went from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, to New York City, the first trip to New York, and we were at the Latin Quarter nightclub.
Now that... picture of you as a teenager?
Yes. It was taken right before I traded Apple in my garage.
To me, it looks like someone who sells macrame on Etsy. Well, here I am, working at Disneyland's magic shop when I was 15 years old.
Oh, and look, that's me hanging out there behind you. Look at that.
Can we take a closer look at that? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Somehow that's one of the less creepy photos of you I've ever seen.
Speaking of creepy...
Come on, we've all done it. And here's my senior prom. What a fun night that was.
Look how handsome you were.
Look how pretty you were.
Thank you. And I love this dashing picture of you from your high school yearbook.
Oh, you know what's interesting about this photo? It's a color photo.
That's my point. That's what I've been saying.
I love this dashing photo of you from high school.
Well, now you're being cruel. That was the year I was voted most likely to marry a cousin.
It's even got your grade point average up there. I'll tell you what I love about this photo. It proves that anyone can make it.
Tell us about this photo, Steve.
I call this picture, "Hello, ladies. Goodbye, ladies." Oh. This is an exclusive. This is the first photo of the new border wall.
That'll keep them out.
Oh, and this is what it would look like if cocaine had a face. Oh, I love this picture.
Yeah.
This is actually you in the actual Oval Office.
Yes, it was. It was 1994, and you're probably wondering what I'm doing.
Well, I know what you're doing. The question is, did Bill Clinton take you up on your offer?
Now let's take a look at our last photo.
Oh, look how happy you are.
You know, this was June 28th, 2009.
Thank you, Rain Man.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
But I remember why you were laughing and smiling so hard.
Why?
I had just told you that one day we'd be so desperate we'd be working together. You know, Marty and I met on the film The Three Amigos.
Yes. The Three Amigos, a movie that has been recently labeled a classic, downgraded from masterpiece.
Next up, Just Okay. And it was on that movie that I first realized that Marty had this kind of quirky sense of humor. We'd only been on the movie a couple of weeks, so I knew him for 2 weeks, and there's a lot of downtime on the movie. So Chevy and Marty and I would pass time by playing Scrabble in one of our trailers. And so we're playing Scrabble, and I look over at Marty, whom I don't really know, and he's writing a note. And he folds it over, and he slides it to me, and it said, "I will let you ball my wife Nancy for an E or a Q."
I tend to be competitive. The Three Amigos was so amazing for me, because it was my first movie. And so for a first movie, I suddenly put in equal billing to two massive movie stars. Or so they told me. And I remember the opening night of Three Amigos was like out of a movie. It was insane. It was like, 2,000 people lining Hollywood Boulevard in front of Grauman's Chinese Theater. And the studio had asked the three of us to show up in our full Three Amigos regalia with the hats and the bolero jackets and the spurs. But at 4 p.m. that afternoon,
I called Chevy and said, "Let's wear our tuxes and not tell Marty."
Faster!
I don't care.
Hey, let's sit and chat, shall
Absolutely, if we only had chairs.
Oh, look at that.
Wow. Here I go.
Be careful. Okay, look at that.
Oh, boy.
Oh, wow.
You should have rehearsed that.
Yeah, that was good.
I love that picture of you so much in Manhattan seeing a nightclub show.
amazing thing for me was Frank Sinatra. I mean, he was a miracle. And I loved him in the 40s and the 50s, but in the swinging 60s, you know, fly me to the moon and let me swing forevermore. But it was the... But it's... when he got into his late 70s, that was my favorite, because he was singing all the wrong material, you know. I shot the sheriff. However, I did not shoot the deputy. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. You know.
You met him, right?
I did. Yeah, I did. I was terrified to meet him. I think as often you are of your heroes. And but I was at this unbelievable Hollywood party. It was September 26, 1992, but it was at the home of George Slaughter, the great Hollywood producer who did Laugh-In and everything. And it was you walked into this house. And it was like you were walking into a Hollywood wax museum. I mean, everyone was famous. You looked over there, and Jimmy Stewart was telling a story about his dog, Sam, you know. I looked over there, Katharine Hepburn's talking to Paul Newman. She's saying, I love Sundays, Paul. I always did. I wake up very early. I have a huge bowl of bran. The next few hours, I'm indisposed, and then it's Monday. But the most amazing moment of all these people was I look over, and there's a 77-year-old Frank Sinatra just standing by himself at the bar with a drink. So I go, oh my God, okay, I have to do this. So I go up to him, and I say, Mr. Sinatra, my name's Martin Short, and you have no idea. You have no concept of how big a fan I am of yours. And he looked at me and said, I think I do. He said, what are you drinking, kid? And I said, oh, well, whatever you're having, Frank. Yeah. So he turned to the bartender and said, Jack Daniels. And the bartender said, straight up or on the rocks? But I was nervous. I thought he said straight up or relaxed. So I said, oh, I'll have it relaxed. And Frank said, he said straight up or on the rocks? So I'd known Frank 15 seconds had already pissed him off, you know.
You know what amazes me about that story is you were an adult.
Yes.
you had been around. You were fairly sophisticated. How old were you?
I was 47.
That proves my point that we always carry this little ounce of naivete around with us no matter what we've done or where we've been. You know, and I can prove it. You know, Marty and I used to go to St. Bart's every Christmas for a visit with a bunch of friends. And, you know, St. Bart's started as a little funky island with little ramshackle restaurants on the beach. But through the years, it became a kind of celebrity hangout. And then paparazzi started to show up. And the goal of the paparazzi is to get the absolute worst possible photo of you possible. And I can prove it. Here's a photo of us that actually ran in the National Enquirer.
Oh, boy, look at that. Look at that right there.
And they had a perfectly decent photo of it that they didn't run. Do you have that? Oh, yeah, there you go.
And let me ask you this. Okay. I find this fascinating about you, because you have been famous for, what, 8, 9 years now? No, really. You've been massively famous for well over 40 years. How odd has that been?
Well, you know, obviously it's a different kind of life, and you know, things happen that wouldn't happen ordinarily, and you know, you kind of remember them. Then eventually, you just remember the 2 or 3, you know, kind of odd things that happen. Like, well, actually, this just happened a couple of months ago. I was in Santa Barbara. I was walking down the street, and a young girl about 16 came up to me and said, "Did you do that movie, The Jerk?" And I said, "Yes, I did." And she said, "You gonna do another movie?" It's also a perfect circumstance for left-handed compliments, you know, when they think they're complimenting you, but they're not. You know, we always screen a comedy movie to test it, to see if it gets laughs. So we did that, like the 80s sometime. We had a test screening, and after the movie, a woman spotted me, and she came over and said, "Oh, I love this movie, and my husband loved it, and he hates you." Even my own mother could do it. I had a movie open one weekend, and on the Monday, she called me up and she said, "Oh, some friends of mine went..."
great.
I love your story about meeting Frank Sinatra, but I also met some pretty good people too. I met Cary Grant. I met Fred Astaire. I met Elvis.
Oh,
that was the biggest get of all. It was about 1970. I was just a young comedian, and I was opening for Anne Margaret in Las Vegas. And I knew Elvis was coming to see the show because they were friends. And so I did my act, and now I'm waiting after the show, and I leave my dressing room door open because I know Elvis is coming back. I'm just kind of standing there waiting, and he walks by me, and he looks, and he goes, "Son, you have an oblique sense of humor." And then he came in, and we started talking. And I was very flattered because Elvis has a guy whose sole job it is to get him out of conversations. So the guy came up and said, "Elvis, we have to go." And Elvis said, "It's okay." And so we talked a little bit more, and Elvis was a big gun collector. He liked exotic guns, engraved things and pearl handles. And finally, when we got out of conversation, he said, "Want to see my guns?" And I said, "Sure." And so he had 3 guns on him. He took it out. First one was a little engraved Derringer, and he's very safety conscious. He took the bullets out before he handed it to me, and I'm admiring them. And eventually, I'm holding 3 guns, and Elvis is holding 18 bullets. And I'm thinking, where is Elvis's guy? And I realized I now have to get my guy to get me out of conversations with Elvis. That's something you never think about. It's absolutely true. And I have a question for you. You do something I don't. You do characters, you do impressions, and when you do an impression of someone, do they ever get mad at you?
Well, when you do a new character, hopefully they don't find out, But when you do a new character, you do have to base it, or I do, on someone that you've met in your life, even in your childhood. It kind of gives the character 3 dimensions. And in the year 1984-85, I was a cast member of Saturday Night Live, and the head of makeup that year was a woman named Marion ᖴ𝖚ṛ. And Marion was the most defensive human being that you had ever met in your life. You'd sit in her makeup chair, and she always chain smoked. You could do that inside in 1984 then. And she'd be dabbing your makeup and so on. And you'd say, "Gee, Marion, I look a little pale, don't I?" And she'd say, "I know that. You don't think I know that? I'm a makeup artist. I would know that." Sorry, So, but a month later, Billy Crystal and Christopher Guest and Harry Shearer and I are writing a satiric piece on 60 Minutes. And I was going to play the defensive lawyer who always represents the bad guy. And we called him Nathan Thurm. But I didn't know how to play it. I didn't know how I should do it. And Billy Crystal said, "Why don't you do it as Marion ᖴ𝖚ṛ? You impersonate her behind her back all the time anyway." And I said, "Oh, no, but she'll find out. She won't know." He said, "They never know," he said. So I said, "Okay, that's a good idea, I'll do it." So I even got a cigarette, same brand as Marion's, but I put a wire in it so that as it burned down, the ash would never fall off, So I go to the set, and I forget that Marion is there, of course going to be there, because she's the head of makeup. So she's over there, I'm here with my cigarette, Harry Shearer is playing Mike Wallace, and he says, "Mr. Thurm, you've already admitted your client was breaking the law at that point." And I say, "I know that. You don't think I know that? I'm a lawyer. I would know that." And the director goes, "Cut." He's sweating. And Mary says, "I know that. You don't think I know that? I'm a makeup artist. I can see it." It was insane. But when a character becomes popular on SNL, you're kind of expected to do it again. And every time I did Nathan Thurm, I was terrified I would get caught, and I never got caught. But then after the last show, there was a big party, and Marion's assistant got drunk. And he went into her office and said, "Marion, how stupid are you? Don't you know that you're Nathan Thurm? Everybody else does." And she was devastated. She was so upset, And she came up and she confessed. as I could, that is, if you'd really like me to.
Well, you heard them. A resounding no. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Martin Short.
Thank you, Steve. Boy, does his cologne linger or what? Wow. It's so nice for me to perform with someone who's a potential organ donor. I'm going to keep this brief because I left my Uber driver waiting, and you know how testy Steve Bannon can get. So, but I adore Steve Martin. I really do. He's one of my oldest friends. You know, Steve and I are like Donnie and Marie without the sexual tension. We go together like Ellen DeGeneres in a vest. I mean, it's a team, is what I'm saying. And hanging out with Steve Martin, well, it's a lot like the movie Deliverance. It's all fun and games until the banjos come out. Now, you know, when Steve plays his banjo, I like to close my eyes and pretend I'm on hold with Cracker Barrel. One time I asked Steve, I said, what would you be doing if you weren't a talented comedic actor? And he said, probably what you're doing, you know. But I'm so happy to be here tonight. Although that could be the Vicodin and Xanax talking, but I don't think so. Because for me, there's no greater high than performing in front of a live audience. No greater high. In fact, the only difference between you people and pure-grade pharmaceutical morphine is that morphine doesn't judge. Of course, performing live, you have to stay fit. You know, I've been on Jenny Craig more times than Mr. Craig. And you know, listen, let me tell you, there is a lot of pressure to stay looking good in show business. That is the rule of show business, to stay looking good. There are, of course, many rules in show business. You always take penicillin after a Leonardo DiCaprio pool party. When you pick up Kevin Hart, you always have to remember to cradle the neck, you know. You never sneak up on Gwyneth Paltrow during a cleanse. That can be a mistake. Always let Steve Harvey's mustache sniff your hand before you pet it. I mean, you never embark in a conversation with Matthew McConaughey without an exit strategy. You never say to Bill Cosby, hey, Bill, could you fix my wife a drink? I mean, you don't do it. You don't do it, Jeff. But it's interesting. On the cab ride here tonight, because the Peace Center wouldn't send a car, I was reflecting on the original impetus of why I wanted... Oh, for God's sake! How does something like that happen? Hey, say hello to Jeff Babko, everyone. The fabulous Jeff Babko. Keyboard player from Jimmy Kimmel Live every night. Thank you. We love you, Jeff. Thanks, you know, he's one of my oldest friends. He was there when all three of my children were conceived. I know, because I was out of town making a movie at the time. Anyway, Jeffrey, thank you for being here tonight.
Great to be here, Marty. You know, I was thinking today at the hotel earlier about my musical training, and I know that we've talked about it before, but I learned so much about timing and its relationship to harmony and melody in music, and it reminded me of the important kind of symbiosis that... Sorry. Shh.
You've got to stop talking now, because that was really a dull story.
I wasn't quite done.
I mean, people think pills killed Marilyn Monroe. You stopped by. That's what happened. I have the legs of a marionette, don't I? Look at that. this isn't good. I know you can't do that. This is a little coy, I think. A little gentle here. Well, I'll just leave it like that.
Put 'em down.
What?
Put them down that
Oh,
way.
oh, come on. Anyway, on the carriage ride here tonight, because I love to pamper myself, the driver said, "What is the name of the film you made I hated?" And I thought, oh my God, he knows my work. And then it dawned on me, here's a man who hates me for my work, but doesn't know me well enough to hate me for who I am. So that's why tonight I'm going to tell you a little bit about my life, a little bit about my journey. As you may or may not know, I'm Canadian. That's it? Are we at war?
Two people.
You know, we're the aliens you don't deport. I just turned 67 years of age. No work. I know you're thinking, no kidding. Because cosmetic surgery doesn't work on a man. You know, you get this look. Hello. No, I just lost weight. Wonderful story. And no one says, who's that 38-year-old dude? They say, who's the 67-year-old who's been in a fire? Wonderful story. Anyway, my first love has always been the theater. Then comes movies and television and then my family. I have 3 children, one of each. I grew up in a house filled with love, in that our cousin lived with us and she put out. And even she used to say, it's better to have loved a short than never to have loved a tall. Never Lena. More than anything in the world, I adored my parents, especially my mom. God rest her soul. She's not dead yet, but it's not looking good, I'll tell you that much. My father was a little more complicated. You know, he was Irish, so there was a lot of... I used to say, Dad, why make that noise? Just drink the gin, you know. I don't know if anyone has a parent who tippled, but my father... What are you staring at? My father, very successful guy. You know, vice president of Canadian Steel, but he loved to take a sip. And the second he got home from work, he would have a gin and ginger, no ice, as the Irish do. And he would sip and sip and sip until he went to bed. And then on the weekends, he'd drink all weekend. It wouldn't start that early, 7 in the morning. And around 3 in the afternoon on a Saturday, you'd look over at him, and it wasn't like he was slurring, but you suddenly realized his hair was drunk. You know... And he was always teaching the secret of golf. You know, Marty, I was talking to this Jewish chap at the club. Goldberg or Silver or Bronstein. I can't remember. I know there was a precious metal involved in his name. And he said to me, you know, Charlie, you know that I'm half Irish and I'm half Jewish. And I said, you know, Stan, I'm from Crossmaglen, County Armagh. And in Armagh, we have a term for someone who's half Irish and half Jewish. We call them a Jew. Anyway, Marty, did you hear about the blind prostitute? You had to hand it to her. And then the fights would start, you know. But I was the youngest of 5, so I could sneak off to my fabulous attic bedroom, where everything was bliss, and I'd listen to Frank and Tony. But eventually I had to leave the attic. Mainly because I was 23 years of age and my parents had sold the house to other people. But where was I to go? The year 1972. And at that time, off-Broadway was obsessed with 2 things: religious musicals and full frontal nudity. in the daylight sure looked scary. Mother was a leper, and that ain't a pretty sight. And so he left her, but she still had his love inside her. So on her one good leg, she crawled to Galilee. There were no wise men with the gifts of gold and myrrh beside her. But 9 months later, up came me. 'Cause I'm the stepbrother of Jesus. I may be a bastard, but the ladies seem to like it. Stepbrother to Jesus. A copy may not live up in heaven above, but I'm a stepbrother to Jesus. I sing so loud that you don't need to mic it. I God's gift to a lady for a night of love.
Stepbrother to Jesus.
Night of love.
Stepbrother to Jesus.
Night of love.
Stepbrother to Jesus.
What's the big deal about raising the dead? Fuck! Hello, ladies. I know what you're thinking. Remember, it's the theater. Objects may appear smaller than they actually are. Don't pity me. My rock bottom is still your wildest dreams. Top that, motherfucker. Martin Short, ladies and gentlemen.
You know, people on crack asked Marty, hey, can you slow down just a bit? This is a banjo, and thank you. Well, thank you. There's a big difference between the banjo and the guitar. The banjo has a round pot. It's called with a skin head stretched over the top, and it projects the sound outward, and the guitar can get you laid. Always have to tune. It's very hard to tune a stringed instrument in an environment like this with the air conditioning and the heat of the lights. It's kind of a physics issue. I could teach it to you, but it's pretty sophisticated. So, well, I'll give it a go. See, what happens is the photons come down and strike the protons, and that agitates the muons and the gluons so that the moron can play. And I was once asked, Steve, when your imagination goes dry, how do you replenish your creative vessel? And I said, really, can you just finish the prostate exam? But I do write songs, and every once in a while I'm asked, Steve, where do you get your ideas for songs? And I find the best ideas come in the silences. The silence of a sunrise, the silence of a sleeping baby, the silence on a woman's face while making love to her. And young inventive banjo players come up to me and they say, Steve, how can I get my music out in front of people like you have? I always say the same thing. Two things. I say, one, be very creative. Don't let anyone tell you how to write your music. And two, already be famous. You know, I was raised in the 60s in the era of the protest song, you know, with Joan Baez and Pete Seeger and Bob Dylan, and I always loved that music, but I never wrote a protest song in my life until about 3.5 years ago, and this song just came to me, and I thought, I must mean this. This has really come from my heart. It's called, Let's Keep the Minimum Wage Right Where She's At. I don't have anything. All right. Here's... Canyon Rangers, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. You know, I've been playing the banjo for over 50 years, but I'm relatively new to playing live on stage with a band, and it's a discipline, it takes some practice. And, you know, I'll be honest with you, some nights I come off stage, I think, wow, I played great tonight, that's fantastic. And other nights I think, well, I wish I'd played better. So I went to check out this live performance thing, and I went to see Eric Clapton play live. And I thought, he's not so funny. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take a moment to recognize the band. I guess, I don't know. You know, Marty and I love this band, actually. The Rangers have this beautiful tour bus, and it's really nice. After each show, we all go out there and hang out. It's, you know, the parts of the banjo. People always ask me, can you name the various parts of the banjo? And I... That you laughed at that makes me very disappointed in you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, some of you may know I started out as a magician and juggler, but what you may not know is that I also started out as a ventriloquist, and I'd like to show you some of those skills tonight.
Hello!
My little wooden-headed friend, Jiminy Glick.
Hello! It's so wonderful to be here, Steve. Oh, Lord Grimble. What a wonderful day. Look how sexy the audience is. Jiminy. Oh, look at that lady. I love the ladies, Steve. Oh, and she's wearing a low-cut dress. Oh, I wish my fingers were scissors, and I'd snip those straps and release the hostages. What a handsome man you are. Look at you. Your teeth are so white. Your smile is like an email from Grandma. All caps.
Now, Jiminy, you hang out with the big celebrities.
Well, clearly this is my night off.
You are one of the great critics of style. So
Well,
what I
thank you.
thought we'd do is take a look at some photos of people in the news, and you can tell us whether you think they do or do not have style.
Oh, I think this is wonderful, fun sounding. Let's take a look.
Let's take a look at our first picture.
Oh, Kim Carr. Well, she's a lovely girl, Steve. But, she's not bright.
Oh, that's not nice.
No, please. She thinks soy milk is Spanish for I am milk. And, of course, I was at her wedding, Oh, yes. Oh, her dress was stunning. Kim wore white because, she can be ironic. But let's see Kim without all that makeup. There you go. But you know what, Steve? You can't deny the lady has style.
She does have style. Who's next? Oh, Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders. Oh, Bernie Sanders, everyone felt the burn. They felt the burn. But the reality was he didn't have a chance to be president.
Oh, that's terrible. Why?
Too old. Oh, Steve, he's 76 years old. At his age, the only time he doesn't have to pee is when he's peeing. And how did he find time to run for president and then sit in the balcony and heckle the Muppets? I mean, it's a gift. But the man has style.
Okay,
Yes.
who's next?
Oh, the queen. Oh, I'd like to mount her. You know that she is 92 now, Steve. For her birthday, Prince Charles gave her an engraved bracelet.
Oh, what did it say?
Do not resuscitate. Next.
Who's next? Oh, Jared and Ivanka. This is interesting, Jiminy. Ivanka converted to Judaism when she married Jared.
Haven't the Jews suffered enough? But Jared is an interesting dude.
How?
Well, he likes surprise sex in the morning.
Yeah?
So he's gonna love prison.
Who's next?
Oh, Hillary Clinton. She's the only woman who can swear under oath that she never had sex with Bill Clinton. Next. Ted Cruz. And I thought I had to stick up my ass.
Oh, who's next? Dave Letterman, our friend, our good friend.
I love Dave Letterman. Here's what I don't get. Dave looks like that, but you're the one who plays the banjo. I wonder how long he waited. Short-range missile, I'll tell you that much. Looks like someone put a wig in a butterball turkey. The man has no style.
No style.
No
Okay.
style.
Who's next?
Oh, I had no idea David Spade was transitioning. Next. Oh, Anderson Cooper looks terrible.
No, that's Mike Pence.
Oh, my. This guy is so white, he makes you look like a member of the Wu-Tang Clan. He won't have sex because he's afraid it will lead to dancing. See, that's his orgasm face. That's a serious thing.
Who's next? Oh, Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Oh, I loved her as Mrs. Doubtfire. She looks like the before person in an Imodium ad.
Do that again, really, come on. Jeez.
She looks like the... First of all, you're making me laugh.
Yeah.
She looks like...
Hey, for God's sake, let me do it.
Oh, don't you do it. Ready? She looks like the before person in an ammonium ad.
Steve, we should not have done it again.
I know.
Yeah.
You insisted.
Yeah.
How is she not named Bertha? I don't get it. Next.
Okay, who's next?
Oh, looks like the Keebler elf ate the inventory.
That is Newt Gingrich.
Oh, I was getting confused with Susan Boyle. Style, I'd be hard-pressed to say that dude has style.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. Who's next?
What a brilliant idea by President Donald J. Trump. He got Vladimir Putin riding the border looking for Mexicans.
All right, Jimmy, I can't bear this anymore.
Oh, there's so much more to say.
That's what I'm afraid of. I'm going to let you stand on your own 2 feet.
Oh, no,
There you go.
this is a terrible mistake. I'll walk. Maybe I'll start running.
Oh, boy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our show. Oh, don't worry, the show is far from over. Your ticket allows you to load the sound equipment into the van after the show. Let's bring back Marty, ladies and gentlemen. Here you go. Marty, may I say, I would not be here on this stage tonight if not for you. Thank you for driving.
Oh. And can I say that this audience is the greatest audience that we have ever played?
I think
you are
so.
so generous and kind. We love you like family. Better than family. Let's toast them, shall
Yes,
we?
let's give them a toast. This is our favorite
Honestly,
part of the
no.
show.
Give them a toast, Steve.
To you, the wonderful audience here in South Carolina, we've had a great time. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Spumante with 2 sweetened lows, just the way I like it. And I'd like to thank my fabulous musical director, the talented, the affable, and somewhat limited Jeff Babco right there. Thank you, Jeffrey.
And let's bring back the incredible Steep Canyon Rangers.
Yeah.
You know, Marty, it's the end of our time here in South Carolina, and I woke up this morning feeling a little sentimental. And you know how I do like to write songs, and I get inspired every once in a while. And I wrote a little tune that kind of celebrates our friendship. And yeah, I wrote some lyrics, and I thought maybe we could do it tonight. Your lyrics are there in black, and then I have mine in blue, and I will teach you the melody.
Oh, don't worry about that, Steve. All your melodies sound the same. You wrote this today.
I did, and I gotta say, you know, I had a few moments of a little emotionality, I thought. You know, my wife thinks Marty and I are too close, but we resolved that by getting one of those beds with the adjustable sleep numbers.
Yeah, it does work.
Oh, thank you.
What's that gonna make? I mean, I knew you were talented, but
You said top that, motherfucker.
great comedian.
You're so right, you're so right. Oh, my buddy, you're so right.
On the screen, you're the one, like Chaplin or a Nicholson. I search for words to describe you best. I'll just settle for genius.
Let's count the awards that you have won. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, none.
Oh, my friend, you're such an ass. And I mean that in the sense of ass. ASS spelled with an O, so you're an ass with a hole.
I am rubber, you are glue, words bounce off me and stick to you.
Our friendship has so long survived, it's lasted 30 years somehow. We are buddies to the end, who thought the end would be right now. My friend Steve Buck, my friend Martin Short. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I love this and the best. This is my end. Thank you all. Very nice. Thank you. I love this and the best. Thank you. Good night. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Now, please be seated. We thought we were done, but we went off stage and there was a lawyer from Netflix there telling us that we are obligated to do 5 more minutes. Contractually. So I guess this is our encore. Now, I know there are varying ticket prices tonight, and it never seemed fair to me that people who paid less should have the same encore experience as those who paid more. So if you did pay less, do the right thing. Cover one eye or one eye. Here, gotcha. 5 more minutes to fill.
5 more minutes to kill.
We had a lot of fun. We thought we were done, but a lawyer said an hour 51. The audience wants to go home. Enough with the jerk and the gnome. Everything they said made me wish I stayed in bed.
But I'm glad I saw their show before they're dead.
That's Steve! Take it home, Stevie! One more minute to fill. 1 more minute to kill. We had a lot of fun. We thought we were done. And
When you came to me, you say you love me. When you tend to go, you make others sorry. The broken heart you brought to my life, the bitter taste of a shameful life. Why you lied to me at the day you came? And why did you give me unreal dream stuff? And I can't accept your